The galaxy was vast, ancient, and filled with countless civilizations, but not all names survived the erosion of time. Among the Korath, the Exilorians, and the hive collectives of the Drayeth, there lingered a whisper. A word they dared not say aloud in their great halls, yet still carved into the ruins of burned worlds. Human. The archivists called it a myth. The warlords dismissed it as propaganda. Yet every species had records, shattered, fragmented, encrypted in dead languages, of encounters with a bipedal race that struck fear into the strongest armadas. Beings who fought with fire when the stars themselves turned cold. The galaxy's old scars still bore their fingerprints. But it had been over 2,000 years. Long enough for even nightmares to fade. And so when the Korath High Council gathered inside their orbiting citadel above Zor Prime, they laughed. A minor fleet had detected strange subspace signals, archaic, sharp, patterned in ways no algorithm recognized. They are relics, Chancellor Ver hissed. His 4 eyes glimmered with disdain. Old technology, drifting in the void. Nothing more. Yet Admiral Kaler did not laugh. He studied the repeating bursts across his holodisplay. It was too deliberate. A pattern like a heartbeat. When the pulse echoed again, Kaler's stomach turned. Not relics, he whispered. A summons. Blank, underscore, blank. Far away, across the desolate edge of the Perseus arm, a black void split open. From within, an old power emerged, not a whisper, not a myth. The first human fleet in 3,000 years. Their flagship USS Valkyrie slid into real space, its armor dark as obsidian, scarred by the ages, yet alive with pulsing crimson light. At its helm stood Captain John Carter, his jaw set like carved stone, his voice low but steady. "They've forgotten us," he murmured. "Good. That means fear will hit harder." Beside him, Sarah Mitchell, chief strategist, let out a cold laugh. "Forgotten? No, John. They remembered. Just not enough. We'll remind them what humans are." Their fleet spread across the void, 12 capital ships, each bristling with weapons thought impossible. And in the silence between stars, dread spread like infection. Blank, underscore, blank. On Zor Prime, the Korath skies bled crimson as the first human transmission broke through their defense grid. It was not words at first, but a voice. A haunting tone, deep, resonant, echoing with something ancient and human. The entire planet stopped to listen. Then came the words. "This is Earth Fleet Command. We return." Every alien mind felt it. Something primal, something buried in their ancestors' screams. For though they had dismissed humans as legend, every species carried memory. Stories of battles where humans tore through fleets, where they fought long after their worlds were ash. And when the fleet appeared above Zor Prime, blotting out the stars, no one laughed anymore. Blank, underscore, blank. Inside the Valkyrie, David Hunter, a Marine commander with scars across his face, slammed a fist into his gauntlet. "Permission to deploy ground units, Captain. Let's show them we're not just shadows in their records." But Carter shook his head. His gaze lingered on the trembling alien broadcasts flooding across their comms. "No," he said softly. "Not yet. Let them sweat. Let them remember what it means to fear." The crew fell silent. Even hardened veterans like Emily Ross, their ace pilot, felt the weight in his tone. Because this was not just a battle. It was the beginning of a reckoning. A reckoning where legends came back not as ghosts, but as flesh and steel. And the galaxy would never be the same. The first silence after the transmission was more terrifying than any war cry. Entire planetary networks froze, as if no one dared to be the first to respond. Civilian ships abandoned their trade lanes, colliding in chaotic flight, while defense stations powered weapons they knew would never be enough. Among the Korath Council, voices broke into panic. Deploy every interceptor. Lock the system gates. Seal the colonies. But every command felt hollow. The fear had already spread faster than orders could contain. And then, the second broadcast came. A calm human voice, Sarah Mitchell's, slid across every frequency, translated perfectly into thousands of alien tongues. "Your ancestors feared us for good reason. Their bones are still buried under the ashes of their empires. We offered peace once. You spat on it. We offered coexistence. You hunted us. Today, there will be no offers." The voice carried not rage, but something worse, certainty. A dreadful finality, like the tolling of a cosmic bell. On board the Valkyrie, Emily Ross leaned forward, eyes fixed on the alien broadcasts returning to them. Stuttered pleas, garbled denials, threats that sounded like whimpers. "They're already breaking," she whispered. But Captain John Carter did not smile. His gaze stretched beyond the alien world to the billions of terrified lives below. "Breaking is just the first step," he said. "Fear opens the door. Horror makes them listen. Blank, underscore, blank." Far beneath the surface of Zor Prime, in its deepest archives, a different sound stirred. A cry not heard for millennia, the alarm reserved only for human contact. Locked away by generations who thought it superstition, it now wailed across subterranean cities. The alien youth stared at one another, confused. Their elders wept, because they had heard the stories. They had seen the forbidden images passed down in secret vaults, men and women in primitive armor, standing against the impossible, smiling with blood on their lips as worlds burned around them. Legends, yes. But legends with teeth. Blank, underscore, blank. The humans advanced not with haste, but with inevitability. Their fleet moved like a predator circling prey, careful, deliberate. When David Hunter's Marines checked their weapons, they found them unnecessary, for terror itself was already dismantling the planet's defenses. Generals surrendered entire regions before a single shot had been fired. Hunter clenched his jaw. "We came to fight, Captain. If they collapse before we touch ground, what's the point?" Carter's eyes hardened. "The point, Commander, is that this galaxy forgot what humans were. We will remind them without wasting breath. Let fear do the bleeding." Blank, underscore, blank. Still, not every species yielded. Across the stars, warlords stirred, their pride forcing them into action. The Dreyeth swarms whispered, "If humans have returned, they must be crushed before they root again." Fleets gathered in distant systems, preparing to converge on Zor Prime. But in their hidden corridors, some did not plot war. They plotted escape. Entire civilizations prepared refugee ships, scattering to the outer void. Better to live in exile than to share a sky with humans once more. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. And as the Valkyrie's shadows darkened Zor Prime's surface, Sarah Mitchell spoke again. "You thought we were ghosts. You were wrong. Ghosts don't command fleets. Ghosts don't burn stars. And ghosts don't knock at your door." She paused. Her voice dropped to a whisper that seemed to crawl through every comm channel. "Humans do. Right. Act 2, the first strike." The galaxy's oldest nightmare did not begin with a battle. It began with a shadow. The Valkyrie deployed its drones, small, needle-shaped machines with obsidian hulls that swallowed light. They drifted silently across Zor Prime's orbit, slipping past defense turrets and patrol fleets as though the laws of detection themselves had been rewritten. The Korath called them ghost knives, in desperate chatter, though their engineers could not explain how they moved, how they killed, or why entire stations went silent in their presence. One by one, orbital outposts flickered and died. Screens went black, crews stopped answering, and when rescue ships docked, they found corridors filled with nothing but echoes. No blood, no signs of violence, just emptiness. Blank, underscore, blank. Inside the council chamber, Chancellor Vare slammed his claws against the table. "This is psychological warfare. They are nothing but specters trying to frighten us." But Admiral Kaler's face told another story. His forces had scrambled fighters, thrown entire squadrons at the incoming human fleet. Yet none returned. Some vanished without a trace. Others sent final transmissions filled with static, interrupted by screams. "Specters." Kaler growled, his voice breaking. "Specters don't peel hulls open like paper." Blank, underscore, blank. On board the Valkyrie, the human crew prepared the next stage. David Hunter, restless in the hangar, paced between armored Marines. "We've softened them enough. Let us drop, Captain. Let them see our faces before we finish this." John Carter stood silent for a long moment, then nodded. "Deploy. No speeches. No mercy." The Marines loaded into descent craft, sleek vessels shaped like black daggers, thrumming with restrained fury. Emily Ross took the lead in her fighter, escorting the dropships as they pierced atmosphere. The sky of Zor Prime bled with streaks of fire, like meteors signaling the end of days. Alien civilians screamed as the first human boots touched their soil in 3,000 years. Blank, underscore, blank. The city of Fulcur was the first target, a capital of glass towers and crystalline bridges. its streets filled with panicked mobs, fleeing at the sight of armored giants moving with mechanical precision. The Marines said nothing. They fired no shots. They simply marched through the heart of the city, their very presence enough to paralyze resistance. One child clutched her elder's hand, whispering in their native tongue, "Are they gods?" "No," the elder replied, trembling. "They are worse." When alien soldiers finally mustered courage, surrounding the humans with plasma rifles, Hunter stepped forward. His visor reflected their trembling figures. "Shoot," he said calmly. They fired. The humans did not fall. Shields shimmered, absorbing volleys as though raindrops splattered against glass. The Marines advanced, their footsteps heavy, deliberate. When they finally raised their weapons, a single volley of railgun fire reduced the alien platoon to scattered ash and twisted armor. The message was clear. Resistance was meaningless. Blank. But horror was not in the killing, it was in the silence. The humans did not shout in victory, did not celebrate. They simply moved on, their expressions cold, their discipline terrifying. To the aliens, it felt less like war and more like judgment. Above, Sarah Mitchell monitored transmissions. Reports of uprisings collapsing, military governors surrendering before they even saw a human soldier. Fear had become a contagion. "John," she said over the comm, "we don't need to burn this world. They're already offering it to us." Carter's reply was steady. "Fear makes them bend. Fire makes them remember. Blank. And so the Valkyrie charged its main weapon. The sky split as a lance of white energy descended, striking not the city, but the empty wastelands. Beyond, the ground erupted, a shockwave flattening mountains, reducing entire continents into trembling silence. It was not an attack. It was a warning. Every alien eye turned skyward. The humans had spoken without words, "We could have ended you. We chose not to. Yet, blank. Deep beneath Thulkur, a hidden vault trembled open. Ancient guardians stirred, an alien order sworn across centuries to prepare for the day the humans returned. Their High Keeper raised a trembling claw to activate forbidden weapons, muttering an oath. They were never meant to rise again. But as the human fleet blotted out the stars, the Keeper's words faltered. Because every oath, every preparation, felt like sand against a tidal wave. The galaxy had not prepared enough. And the humans had only just begun. The first nightfall on Zor Prime under human occupation was unlike any other in recorded history. The sky glowed faint red, not from burning cities, but from the silent watch of the human fleet above. Every child who looked to the heavens that night whispered the same question, "Are they still watching?" The answer was always yes. In the darkened streets of Thulkur, alien patrols refused to leave their barracks. Rumors spread of human shadows moving through alleys, silent as smoke. Families barred doors and covered windows, though deep down they knew locks meant nothing. Fear itself had already entered their homes. When dawn came, it did not bring relief. Giant banners appeared overnight across the skyline, projected by human drones. They bore no words, only a single image, a human face, stern and unblinking, its eyes following every passerby. The Korath had no translation for it, yet every soul understood. It was not a promise. It was a claim. From orbit, Sarah Mitchell studied the data pouring in. Entire colonies across neighboring systems had gone dark, their leaders too terrified to even respond to the return of mankind. She turned to Carter and said in a low voice, "It's spreading faster than fire. They're collapsing without us firing a second shot." Carter's reply was chilling. "Good. Let the galaxy burn itself in terror before we raise a hand." Across the galaxy, the return of humanity spread like a virus through the stars. Systems that had lived in arrogant comfort for centuries now spoke in whispers, leaders meeting in panic behind sealed chambers. The humans had shown themselves not only above Zor Prime, but across the entire Perseus arm, ghost fleets emerging from black holes, cloaked frigates sliding out of forgotten nebulae, entire worlds reporting human sightings that no longer seemed like hallucinations. The Council of 12, an ancient coalition of species that had once divided human territory after their disappearance, convened on the crystalline world of Vulthar. Its towers gleamed under the blue sun, but inside the Grand Assembly Hall, fear twisted every word. "Their return is impossible," declared High Archon-Ear of the Drayeth Swarm. His mandibles clacked, betraying unease. "We destroyed their colonies. We crushed their fleets. We burned their worlds. Admiral Srath of the Exilorians hissed in return. And yet here they are. Legends returned. Ghosts turned flesh. Our censors do not lie. An elder of the Korath stood, her voice shaking. They did not return. They endured. For 3 millennia they endured. Blank, underscore, blank. Meanwhile, aboard the USS Valkyrie, the humans prepared for escalation. Captain John Carter studied the interstellar comm intercepts with grim satisfaction. His sharp blue eyes lingered on one phrase that appeared again and again across alien transmissions, the devourers of stars. Devours, he muttered. They still remember, even if they pretend not. 2. Sarah Mitchell leaned closer, her face pale in the glow of the screens. We need to move fast. The galaxy won't remain paralyzed forever. Pride will push them to unite. That's the plan, Carter said. Let them gather. Let them come. A single strike won't teach them. But breaking their fleets in front of their own eyes, that will write fear into history again. Blank, underscore, blank. The first challenge came from the Drayeth swarm. Their hive fleets, black and jagged as insect carapaces, emerged from hyperspace near Zor Prime, filling the void with countless wings and cannon mounts. Billions of insectoid voices hummed across shared frequencies, chanting the same vow: the swarm fears nothing. The swarm consumes all. On the ground, Korath survivors raised their eyes in fragile hope, believing the swarm might repel the human invaders. The skies lit with the arrival of 1,000 ships, blotting out even the terrifying shadows of the Valkyrie. But hope died quickly. The human fleet did not scramble in panic, did not reposition in haste. Instead, Carter gave a single order: engage. And the void itself turned red. Blank, underscore, blank. Emily Ross led the fighter wings, her craft slicing through swarms with surgical precision. Every time a Drayeth fighter dove at her, it found itself shredded by railgun bursts before it could even fire. The Marines aboard the dagger ships watched in awe as entire swarms folded under her maneuvers. On the command deck, David Hunter grinned savagely as human torpedoes lanced through hive cruisers, tearing them open like paper. They thought numbers could save them, he growled. But numbers mean nothing when death doesn't fear being outnumbered. Sarah Mitchell added coldly, we don't fight wars of attrition. We end them. Blank, underscore, blank. Within minutes, the swarm began to falter. The humans moved with machine-like coordination, their weapons precise, efficient, merciless. Alien commanders screamed orders across thousands of channels, but panic spread as their ships disappeared in silent blossoms of flame. The Hive, known across the galaxy for overwhelming all enemies by sheer mass, now found themselves prey. In a desperate move, the Drayeth unleashed their living weapons, massive bioships that expelled clouds of acid and spores into space. Entire sectors of void turned toxic. But the humans were ready. The Valkyrie's main gun fired once. The bioships disintegrated in blinding light, their spores consumed in an inferno that lit the skies of Zor Prime brighter than its sun. And then, silence. The swarm, undefeated for thousands of years, broke. Survivors fled, wings shattering across hyperspace. The galaxy's first great army had been humbled, not after months of war, but in less than an hour. Blank, underscore, blank. Back on Volthar, the Council of 12 watched the battle unfold on intercepted broadcasts. Not even the strongest among them spoke. The silence was suffocating, until one voice broke it. They are not conquerors, whispered Archon Ear, mandibles trembling. They are executioners. The chamber erupted in panic. Some demanded immediate surrender. Others demanded alliances, weapons, desperate countermeasures. Yet beneath every shouted command was the same truth: none of them had the strength to stand alone. Blank, underscore, blank. But Carter knew it too. As the human fleet regrouped above Zor Prime, Carter looked to Sarah and Hunter. The galaxy will unite against us. They have no choice. And when they do, he paused, the shadow of a grim smile tugging his lips. We'll show them why unity doesn't matter when fear itself fights on our side. The storm was gathering, and the humans welcomed it. The galaxy had never known unity. For thousands of years, species warred over territory, trade, and pride. Yet the defeat of the Drayeth swarm changed everything. Their annihilation spread across every broadcast, every intercepted frequency, every whispered corridor. Humanity had reappeared, and they were not weak, not diminished. They were predators dressed in human skin, wielding weapons that made legends look small. On Vulthar, the Council of 12 did what was once unthinkable, they set aside their feuds. The insectoid remnants of the swarm shared strategies with reptilian warmasters. Amphibious scholars whispered secrets to silicon-born tacticians. Even the proudest species bent to survival instinct. They forged the Coalition Armada, a force so vast its shadows eclipsed stars. 10,000 warships, dreadnoughts, and siege carriers aligned under a single banner: destroy humanity before humanity destroyed them all. Blank. News of the coalition reached the USS Valkyrie as it drifted through the burned-out carcass of a swarm fleet. Captain John Carter stood before his crew in the war room, his face carved from steel. "They're uniting," he said. "Exactly as we knew they would. The question isn't if they'll strike, it's where." Sarah Mitchell leaned against the hollow table, her hands tightening on its edge. "Vulthar. The Council will gather their fleet there. It's symbolic, it's central, and it's where they think we'll hesitate to attack." David Hunter smirked. "Then we don't wait for them to come to us. We go straight for the heart." Emily Ross frowned, her voice sharp. "That's suicide. 10,000 ships, John. Even with our tech, even with our discipline, we can't face that head-on." Carter's blue eyes hardened. "Who said anything about facing them head-on? Blank. Vulthar's skies were a cathedral of war. Massive fleets drifted in perfect formation, their combined power dwarfing anything the galaxy had ever seen. Armies of billions prepared on the ground, their chants echoing through crystalline towers. This was no longer a defense. This was an execution waiting to be carried out. And then the humans arrived. Not in swarms, not in reckless charges, but in silence. The Valkyrie slipped from hyperspace like a shadow, followed by dagger ships and black frigates cloaked in void light. The humans had not come to overwhelm. They had come to dismantle. The first strike hit Vulthar's moon. A single torpedo detonated its core, fracturing the satellite into molten shards that rained fire upon the surface. Entire defense networks collapsed in an instant. Chaos rippled through the coalition ranks as their perfect formations faltered. Admiral Srath screamed across comms, "Hold formation. They are few. Crush them with numbers." But few did not matter. Emily Ross led her fighter wings through the coalition's outer screen, carving through alien cruisers like glass. Her voice crackled across the comms: "Steady, cold, target the flagships. Break their chain of command." David Hunter directed human torpedo salvos with surgical cruelty. "Don't waste fire. Every shot kills their leaders first. Make them blind." Sarah Mitchell coordinated ground disruption, releasing nanite storms that corrupted defense grids and turned alien machines against their masters. Entire armies on Vulthar found their war mechs snapping and crushing their own operators. The coalition countered with overwhelming fury. Their dreadnoughts unleashed supernova cannons, beams of white-hot energy that carved through space itself. Human ships evaporated under the onslaught, swallowed in blinding light. For the first time, the Valkyrie shuddered. Shields screamed as enemy fire tore against its hull. Sparks showered across the command deck. Emily's voice cut in, ragged. "We're losing wings, ROSS-3 and ROSS-5 are gone." Hunter growled. "We can't hold this line, John." But Carter stood unmoving, his gaze fixed on the chaos unfolding. He whispered, almost to himself, "Let them think they've won. Let them draw blood." Then he gave the order. "Activate the Leviathan. From the black void behind the Valkyrie, something moved. At first it looked like a shadow, then a shape too massive to comprehend. A ship, not built, but engineered, slid into real space, its hull covered in jagged obsidian plates, its size dwarfing even the coalition's greatest dreadnoughts. The Leviathan. Alien commanders screamed in disbelief. That's impossible." The Leviathan's weapon lit like a newborn star. One beam, and 3 dreadnoughts disintegrated. Another, and an entire carrier wing vanished into dust. The coalition's formation shattered in terror. On Vulthar's surface, billions watched their united fleet, the greatest armada in galactic history, die in less than an hour. But victory was not without cost. The Valkyrie burned. Fires consumed its decks. Crew screamed as hull breaches vented them into the void. Sarah Mitchell slammed her fist into controls, overriding failing systems. Emily Ross's fighters were reduced to half strength, her voice breaking as she called for reinforcements that never came. David Hunter fought with blood streaming down his face, his grin gone, replaced with grim determination. And Carter stood silent, watching, calculating, his lips moving in a prayer not for salvation, but for inevitability. "We bleed," he said quietly. "So they'll believe they can kill us. And when they believe it," his eyes narrowed, "that's when the real horror begins." The act closed with Vulthar's skies burning, the coalition broken but humanity scarred. The galaxy now knew two truths: humans could bleed, but more terrifyingly, they could never be stopped. Right. Act 5, the horror of victory. The galaxy was silent. In the aftermath of Vulthar, the ashes of 10,000 alien warships drifted through space like a cosmic graveyard. Entire species had gambled their survival on that battle, and lost. Vulthar's skies, once a cathedral of unity, were now a tomb lit by the burning wreckage of the Coalition Armada. But for the humans, it was only the beginning. Blank. On board the USS Valkyrie, alarms still howled. Fires tore through the corridors, life support systems faltered, and injured crewmen cried out in pain. Yet, in the command chamber, Captain John Carter stood as though untouched by the devastation around him. His gaze was fixed on the stars, his voice low, calm, unshakable. "Transmit the signal." Sarah Mitchell, her hands burned and trembling, hesitated. "John, if we do this, there's no turning back. Every world will know. Every species will have no choice but to kneel, or die." Carter turned his gaze toward her. His eyes were cold, merciless, and inhuman in their resolve. "Sarah, they already know. Now they'll believe." She nodded, swallowing her fear, and pressed the command. Across the galaxy, on every surviving broadcast frequency, a single message appeared. A human face, Carter's, staring into the void. His words carried through every translation system, every signal amplifier, every neural implant. "We are humanity. You thought we were myths. You thought we were gone. You were wrong. We are your legends. We are your nightmares. We are the ones who rise when the galaxy falls. Kneel, or vanish. Choose. Quickly. Blank. Panic erupted across the stars. On Exharthan, entire cities fled underground, convinced humanity's shadow was already upon them. On Karth, leaders broadcast surrender before a single human ship ever arrived. Worlds turned to ash without a battle, their leaders choosing self-destruction rather than facing the monsters who had returned. The galaxy was unraveling, not through force, but through fear. Humanity had weaponized legend itself. Yet among the humans, the cost was mounting. David Hunter lay in the medbay, his body broken from the Leviathan's backlash. His voice was faint but sharp as he looked at Carter. "We've become the thing they always feared, John. You realize that?" Carter didn't flinch. "Good." Emily Ross stood beside the viewport, watching burning ships drift across the void. Her fighter wings were reduced to a handful, and her eyes were hollow. "We lost too much. Too many. At this rate, we'll win the galaxy, but there'll be nothing left of us to live in it." Carter's reply was chilling. "Then we'll conquer the galaxy as ghosts. Even in death, humanity will own their fear." Sarah Mitchell, torn between loyalty and dread, whispered what none dared speak aloud. "John, what if we've become worse than them? What if we've become the monsters?" The captain's answer was as cold as space itself. "Sarah, monsters survive. But the galaxy was not finished yet. Fragments of the coalition, broken and desperate, gathered in the shadows. They forged a last plan, not to win, but to end humanity at any cost. Rumors spread of weapons hidden in black holes, of ancient entities sleeping beyond the rim, of gods older than time itself. Their whispers carried one desperate plea: find something greater than humanity, or die trying. And in the ruins of Vulthar, as salvage drones picked through shattered hulls, a deeper terror stirred. Something ancient. Something that had once fed on extinction itself. The humans had woken it by shattering the balance. A voice, older than stars, whispered from the void: legends awaken legends. You are not alone. On the Valkyrie, Carter's eyes narrowed as the signal pulsed through the ship's systems. His lips curved into the faintest of smiles, not of joy, but of recognition. Finally, he said softly, "A worthy enemy." The crew fell silent, realizing that the greatest horror was not that humanity had returned. The greatest horror was that humanity welcomed the challenge. Blank. The story ended not in peace, nor in triumph, but in a chilling certainty. The galaxy could unite. It could resist. It could summon nightmares of its own. But no matter what came next, humanity would be ready. And humanity would win. Because to the stars, humans were no longer just a legend. They were the end of all legends.